Many years ago, I had the good fortune of joining a creative pirate ship, an advertising agency that taught me about the power of ideas and collaboration. And most important, how bringing our individual strengths and superpowers to the table was key to doing great work that impacted others. It was a crazy place sometimes, for sure, but always focused on making sure that ideas were developed that impacted others. I saw that if you helped people link their individual talents with doing good, you could help them to take risks with ideas and actions that they might not have before, and that resulted in truly outstanding work. On paper, my job description said something about being in charge of resources, but in reality, I was able to act as a bridge to those who created ideas. And eventually, I became the head cheerleader for everyone linking their talents with stretching out with new thinking. It was amazing, to say the least. So the question became, how can we help other people to stretch out further? How can we get them to be linked in? It was funny, because on that ship, there were all sorts of things that happened. But the basic thing was to be able to get people to engage. And every day, there were opportunities to make that happen. They looked different, but they were there. There's a time when everybody says to themselves, how can we get people to jump in and create bigger ideas? And it's not an easy thing to do, that's for sure, but to be able to get those people to take risks is what we truly want to see happen. So the question becomes, how can I get everyone to bring their superpowers together? You might be asking yourself, what are our superpowers? Well, I say they are our strengths and abilities and the things that come easily to us. Those things that we often say are just on the side, that we don't usually give a lot of extra time to, but the reality is that we actually spend most of our spare time on if we could. You might be asking yourself, why talk about our powers? Why are they something more than a nicety that we would talk about at parties? I think this is about changing our beliefs, that our abilities are needed in order to impact something larger than ourselves. When I was at that advertising agency, there was something about being on that ship that you realized that if outside in the world there was a line drawn between those who believed they were creative or not, then inside a place that was all about big ideas, there was a canyon between those who came up with thoughts and everyone else. An extreme example of the us and them that starts when we're students and comes up with us all the way through to adulthood, and ultimately impacts where we head with all of those great ideas. I couldn't help but wonder, if there was an opportunity out there to do more. And when I was on that ship, an account director actually said to me, "It's too bad that you're not creative like the rest of us," meaning a writer or an artist. Whew. Just moments before, I hadn't even questioned my talents, but suddenly I knew what it was to feel that divide and how easy it would be to put away my gifts and perspectives, doubting their value. Yes, I could see how most people might be inclined to put those aside. Not an easy thing. But that's the thing about our superpowers. Those things that we take for granted, like gardening and robotics, that we would spend most of our spare time on if we had a chance. They are incredibly important, especially today. So I couldn't help but wonder, if I felt like this suddenly, then how many others were hesitating in bringing their whole selves, thoughts and all, to their work and life? It seemed like for all the challenges that we face, it's our own self-doubt that's the greatest kryptonite of all, keeping us from doing work that we care about and that we're really proud of. How can we put those superpowers in action? If I asked you to turn to the person next to you and share your superpower with them, you would be amazed at what happens. Huge energy that comes from it. People sharing all sorts of great things. And the best part of all, groups that I've had before, finding out that they had enough musicians to make a band, and then going out and making one. Deep human connection and exchange, leading to amazing collaborations. You just ask yourself, what else? What else could happen next? Okay, so sometimes it's just creating an opening, having an invitation to stretch out with what you already have. So yes, that's me on the far side, along with 2 other yearly creative participants in this challenge that if you met them on the street, you'd think would be unlikely to take part in it. I think that's what we're talking about, reigniting everyone's inner gnome. No matter what group you're with. Thanks. Thank you. If you're trying to figure out how to help others believe that they are, innovators and creators, it usually begins by creating environments where people can take risks. And if you put yourself out there, others will usually come along with you. I found that over the years. So, here's the thing. You don't really need to have cotton candy machines and hot dogs that apparently are linked in some places to creating big ideas. But you do need to build environments of trust where people are able to be vulnerable and put themselves out there. And having fun is key, absolutely. But it doesn't have to look one way. It can be as simple as colored markers and Post-its at your next meeting for people to be able to put their ideas out in new ways. It's starting. I found that a natural thing happens when you pair environments of safety with stretching out to help others. Even the hesitant jump in. Outside of their comfort zones, even. Places that wanted to do work that would impact others in a big way allowed people to stretch out further. Some of the biggest ideas that had people like Oprah talking about them happened on the smallest budgets, wanting to do good. People were jumping in. And the offshoot of truly great problem solving is people feeling connected. That thing that we all crave and would walk 1,000 miles for. So after the crash in 2008, I, like many others, started new. What was interesting to me was my first response: not to believe in my strengths and not to follow those, but to doubt what I had, be hesitant about the talents that were underlying, and looking for some kind of divine intervention to show me which way I should go. As luck would have it, it would come in a series of unlikely conversations. One conversation was with my then 7-year-old son, who asked me why there weren't any more crazy hat days at school. I told him I would get right back to him on that. And like any good mom, I went right down to the school and asked the question. And as luck would have it, the job of crazy hat day organizer was still there. So it became my great love to be able to help build fabulous hats and ideas and have students jump in. And I saw that if we could help students that young link making big ideas with doing good, we could seamlessly create the powerful thinkers and leaders that this world so desperately needs. The second conversation came with a retired teacher I knew, who told me about her friend's son. She said that he'd done well in high school. Optimistic, he and his friends had set out to a prestigious university where, within 1 year, they had dropped out and were at home playing video games in the basement. She said that recently they had said that they were leaving to become miners because they didn't believe that they would ever have a job or a life that they loved. So they left. Now, I'm all about adventures, and miners are a hard-working bunch. And I know, because my grandfather was a gold miner. But we don't need everyone to become miners, and particularly if it means them not recognizing their gifts. So, the question was, how can I get people, and particularly young people, to jump in, ignite their talents, stretch out further with ideas? I knew that the innovation tools that I'd used over the years at that agency with great problem solvers would help them to become better equipped to take on the challenges that lie ahead. And the question became, how could I get more of this happening? And it seemed like everywhere I went after that, I was hearing similar stories about those same miners, by the way. To say that I was fired up would be an understatement. So it became part of the underlying quest to figure out how to be able to help young people and people in general to stretch out with their ideas. I talk a lot about making small risks and experiments happen as part of creating solutions. I think it's incredibly dangerous right now with the number of shifts and changes that we're undergoing to get lulled into believing that you need to be something different, have an advanced degree in order to be a great problem solver or change maker. Don't get me wrong, education and being a lifelong learner are keys to the future. But mixing them with elements from the MacGyver School of Solutions might be even more important, and means you don't have to wait to be one of those special people. It's believing in your ability to create, understanding others, and then not being afraid to try, fail, take what you've learned, and try again, building resiliency. Something that seems to be in short supply today. I couldn't help but wonder, if we could help students link their strengths with doing good, would they feel more capable, more ready? It might be like what astronaut Chris Hadfield describes as gaining confidence over his fear of heights as a child by progressively climbing higher and higher in his barn and jumping into piles of grain. That gaining those small experiences allowed him to take that knowledge and transfer it over to other places in his world, including heading out into space. That's what I want for all of us, the knowledge that we can reach higher no matter what the situation, bit by bit, which is why I started that Innovation and Crazy Hat Club, so that students could put themselves out there in the light for everyone to see, doing social projects, everything from kindness campaigns to maker fairs, and truly being excited about the work they were doing, no matter what it was, and all the while building their toolkits. That led to things like pop-up community projects, where students did a one-day innovation activity, everything from creating new ideas, inspiration videos, and ultimately interacting with the public on new products and ideas they had. All that, and they were so excited. And what did they say the best part of the day was? When some grandmothers hugged them and told them how amazing they were for what they had done. I couldn't help but wonder if helping post-secondary students put their thinking in action might be more important. They were the ones ready to head out into the world right now. So a leadership and innovation lab came to life where organizations doing social good could put out a challenge to students and they would work on it. This is the Community Schools Partnership Group who help local at-risk youth and their families thrive. And these are the fabulous students from our Technical Institute who are using their newfound collaboration and brainstorming tools to work on the challenge the Community Schools Group put out. They gained experience in leadership and innovation and came up with ideas for the Community Schools Group to kickstart their work. It was amazing. Imagine a room filled with groups of people creating new ideas to help others. Sometimes it's just having the opportunity to try and take the risk. Like these women in business who started their strategy session by making some of Gary Hirsch's Joybots to give away and inspired themselves and their ideas to go to whole new places. To be able to help others as part of a process means we have a whole new story to tell about ourselves and what's possible, and that's the beginning of impacting the world in a much greater way. I think it's what Benjamin Franklin meant when he said, "Do well by doing good." But we've become so risk and failure averse. We'd much rather do what's safe because it might be uncomfortable or it might not work out. I know it's not easy. It's taking that first step and realizing that we need to be able to start somewhere, even in a small way. Build our curiosity and stretch out. I know it could seem too big to make a dent in, but I think it's focusing on the small risks and experiments that's going to get us where we need to be. So, I want you to ask yourself the question. 1, what is your superpower? And 2, how could you help someone else put their superpower in action today? And I think if you ask those 2 questions, you would be amazed at where it will take you to. Thanks.